What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going over a kind of a cool fish species. It's totally an invasive species, but it is actually the Asian carp. The fun part about this fish is, you ever see the videos of the people riding down boats in their river and fish just flying out of the water at their faces? Those are Asian carp, and they are, like I said, not supposed to be here. I'm pretty sure they got into the river system by uh, fisheries and things, like basically raising them up for food. Uh, but, they're there now, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to go over them as a topic. So, yeah, guys, without further ado, let's get into this video, and this is the Asian carp. So like I always like to say, guys, I do not own the rights to this particular article. This one is actually in New York Invasive Species, NYIS.info. If you guys would like, please go over there and show those guys some love. Or, like I always say, just stick around and we'll go through this together and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Alright, Asian carp, and this is what they look like. Introduction and spread. In North America, the term Asian carp typically refers to two species of invasive fish. Introduced from Asia, the bighead or big-headed carp and the silver carp. These carp are native to China. They were originally imported into the southern United States in 1970 to provide an inexpensive, fast-growing addition to fresh fish market. They also serve to help keep aquaculture facilities clean. By the 1980s, the carp were found in natural waters in the Mississippi River Basin. As they have moved north through the basin, they have overwhelmed the Mississippi and Illinois river systems, where Asian carp now make up more than 95% of the biomass in some areas. Silver carp can now be found in 12 states. Bighead and silver carp are currently in the Illinois River, which is connected to the Great Lakes via Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. If these things get into the Great Lakes, there is no stopping it. They're filter feeders. Not very many things eat carp because they're a very sturdy fish. Yeah, and I just don't think that'll end well for them, to be honest with you. Alright, so that's a big-headed carp, and this is a silver carp. There's some gnarly-looking fish, though, I must admit that. Alright, two other species of carp imported to the United States from Asia can also become invasive in the wild. The grass carp and the black carp. We have grass carp all over where I live, and I did not know that they were actually invasive. I know around here we got grass and buffalo carp, like where I live, and it's near the Arkansas River. And you see them all the time. They're in canals and streams and stuff. I didn't know one of them was invasive. The herbivorous grass carp, indigenous to Eastern Asia where it is cultivated for food, was introduced to the United States to control aquatic weeds in lakes and waterways. The molluscivorous black carp, feeding on snails, clams, mussels, and other mollusks. That's what molluscivorous means. Is a native of China where it is cultivated for medicinal purposes and is a food source. It was introduced to the United States to provide snail control in aquatic settings, in aquaculture settings. Yeah, because if you get snails in any kind of aquaculture, they go ballistic, and they will just keep reproducing. It's actually kind of scary. We put some in a fish tank, and they just took over the fish tank. By the 1990s, the grass carp had escaped from cultivation into the wild and can now be found in waters within or adjacent to 45 states where they are considered a threat to natural vegetation. Black carp have also escaped and are now in several locations along the Missouri and lower Mississippi River Basin. Ecological risk and impacts of Asian carp. Silver and big-headed carp are filter feeders which feed on plankton, drifting animals, plant or bacterial organisms that inhabit the... Okay, everybody knows what plankton is. Within an apparent preference for blue-green algae, Asian carp can dominate native fisheries in both abundance and in biomass. Big-headed carp can reach 110 pounds, although 30 to 40 pounds is considered average. Big-headed carp can live for over 20 years, maturing at about 7 years. Asian carp can consume 5 to 20% of their body weight per day. As most native fish feed on plankton during their larval and juvenile life stages, this high level of feeding on plankton by Asian carp can have serious impacts on the stability of the food web, with bighead carp potentially outcompeting native fish. While eliminating the main source of food for larval fish and native planktivorous fish, native fish considered most at risk include ciscos, bloaters, and yellow perch, which serve as prey to important predatory sport fish including lake trout and walleye. Great Lakes provide a wide range of habitat types which would serve as good spawning, recruitment, and maturina- maturation areas. I can't talk today, guys. I'm sorry. For carp, spawning habitat could be provided in the flowering waters of Great Lake tributaries, while young Asian carp prefer warm, biologically productive backwaters and wetlands. When not feeding on plankton, the Asian carp have been known to feed on detritus and root in the bottom of protected embayments and wetlands, and shoreline vegetation, which provides spawning habitat for native fish and breeding areas for native waterfowl. Black carp, being molluscivorous, are not a threat to plankton. Should black carp reach the Great Lakes from the Mississippi Basin, however, they could become a threat to native Great Lakes native clam, snail, and mussel populations, particularly those that are rare or endangered, as well as lake sturgeon. Black carp can grow to more than 100 pounds and a length of up to 7 feet. Good lord, that is a big fish. I didn't know carp got that. Well, I knew carp got that big, but I know like particularly black carp got that big. Um, in their native habitat, populations of Asian carp are held in check by natural predators. You guys want to see my cat? Hey, Dobby. Unfortunately, there are no native Great Lakes fish species large enough to prey on adult Asian carp. White pelicans and eagles have been observed feeding on juvenile Asian carp in the Mississippi Basin. The pelicans found in the western reaches of the Great Lakes and eagles throughout the basin may be expected to do the same. Native fish, such as largemouth bass, may feed on juvenile Asian carp. Given the growth rates of Asian carp, many juveniles can be expected to grow too large too quickly for fish predation to be significant pressure to hold down carp populations. Those populations of Asian carp become established with recruitment of young fish exceeding my cat's in the way. Mortality eradication is considered to be difficult, if not impossible. Populations might be minimized in some areas by denying access to spawning tributaries via construction of migration barriers, but this is an expensive proposition which may inadvertently result in negative impacts on native species. The best control for Asian carp is to prevent their introduction into the Great Lakes. So yeah, like I said, if they get into the Great Lakes, they're just going to do some damage. Because they just, like I said, they just get big too fast, and there's nothing out there that'll eat them fast. Economic and recreational impacts. When frightened by the sound of a boat or personal watercraft motor, silver carp have been known to jump up to 10 feet out of the water. The sound of boat motors can cause entire schools of silver carp to jump simultaneously. It is not unusual for 20 to 30 pound silver carp to jump into boats, sometimes resulting in damage to equipment or even injury to occupants. The Great Lakes Commission estimates that almost 1 million motorboats and personal watercraft are in use in the Great Lakes. If the silver carp get into the lakes, around 1 million recreators could be placed in jeopardy. This could have a negative impact on the 4.5 billion annual Great Lakes commercial and recreational fisheries. Unlike the silver carp, the big-headed carp does not jump in response to boat traffic. So, yeah, they actually have a competition every year where people just drive down the river in boats as fast as they can with nets, and the carp just do what they're doing right now. Like it triggers like a weird flight or fight response to them, which causes them to jump out of the water like that, the boat engines. And so people just will drive really fast, and the goal is just to get the biggest carp, but you're not allowed to use a pole or all you can use is like a net or your hands. If Asian carp feed and root extensively in Great Lakes shorelines, wetlands, degradation of the water quality, and damage to wetland vegetation in native waterfowl breeding areas could threaten the 2.5 billion annual waterfowl hunting industry. Prevention. The main pathway through which Asian carp are expected into the Great Lakes is the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal. So you guys can see, like, here is where they started, and they're just going all the way up. So it's like right through here. Man, they got everywhere. This man-made waterway directly connects Lake Michigan to the Mississippi River system. A series of 3 electrical barriers of underwater electrodes has been placed across the canal about 25 miles downstream of the lake. The electrodes create a pulsating field of direct electric current in the water of the canal, intended to deter the carp from swimming through the canal and into Lake Michigan. So they're electrocuting the water to keep fish out. That's interesting to me. Like, I mean, I don't really know what to say on it, to be honest with you, because it's like, that's just a lot of work to go to something like, maybe we should just overfish them, you know? They're obviously easy enough to get. Just drive down the river with a big net on the front of your boat, and you probably catch most of them. But they're not that easy, but it'd be interesting to see that. All right. The barrier may prove not to be 100% effective, but are currently the main defense against introduction of the carp into the Great Lakes. In 2011, individual carp had been found as close as 22 miles from the barrier. The nearest known breeding population of Asian carp was 50 miles downstream of the barrier. No carp were known to be living above the barrier. There is also the possibility that Asian carp may get into the Great Lakes through release of live bait into CSCS above the barrier or directly into the lakes. Live Asian carp being transported to fish markets could also be accidentally or intentionally released into the lakes or their tributaries. The Asian carp has recently been added to the Federal Lacey Act and is an injurious species, and transport and possession of the fish has been banned. Well, that's pretty much how, like, Asian carp and just, I guess, more species of carp in general. It's bad news if they make it to the Great Lakes. Like, that is painfully obvious if they actually get in there. And humans are bad. I mean, they got here in the first place basically by fishing out, like overfishing it all out. So, and people like hiding their. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that never happens. Hopefully it's not something we have to deal with. But like I said, people are people, and people are going to do what people do. So I guess we'll see in the future whether or not that works out. Until next time, though, guys, please do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Comment down below with what you guys think of these Asian carp. If you guys ever fish for them by driving and just trying to catch them in a net, I'd be really interested to know. Drop a comment down below with anything you would like for me to cover in a future video. And go ahead and follow me on the rest of my social medias, which are going to be right at the end of this video. And I will see you guys in the next video.